Good evening everyone, and I've got a rather delayed unboxing for you this evening, and it's actually a figure I've already unboxed, but due to general incompetence and other factors I didn't press record when I unboxed the figure a couple of weeks ago now. Anyway, it's a figure I've bought from Everything Dinosaur as ever, because I get fantastic sales from them, and they always include these lovely information leaflets. And as you can see here, the illustration shows that this figure in this box is Utahraptor ostromesi. The illustration on this card is actually of Rebor's Utahraptor ostromesi, but what we have here is the Beasts of the Mesozoic version, which is quite newly released, and of course these are fully articulated figures and they're a cut above in terms of the design and the passion and the creativity that goes into all these. So you've got fantastic box artwork from Gabriel Guerto, who's of course, apart from a phenomenal wildlife artist, one of the top paleo artists in the world. He's absolutely amazing, so I'm delighted that Creative Studio are collaborating with him. We've got some facts about the Utahraptor on the back. I mean, there's all these extra little details that Creative Studio add, which they just didn't have to, and they still create an amazing figure, but they do, and this is what makes them fantastic. I mean, you can kind of just see the raptor here in a box. They do have the Articulation, which is the Cyberzoic version, on its way as well. I don't know when that will come out. So what you get in the box, apart from your raptor, is this beautifully painted artistic background. So if you wanted to, photograph your raptor against that, it depicts the woodland habitat that, Utahraptor would have got into and possibly lived in. I suspect it probably would have got around and occupied many habitats, given how it's how large dominant predator it was. And because I've already unboxed the figure, she's a little bit loose in the box here. You can see we've got some instructions here, and we've got a nice card. I tend to keep these all in the box. So it's kind of self-explanatory, really. It's common sense when you're putting these things together. And all I can say is, when I first got this thing out, at first I wasn't too sure how I felt about it, but having had it in hand for a couple of weeks, I've got more and more impressed with it. So of course the tail comes separate in the box, so sometimes takes a little bit of effort to get these on. This one has been on before, so it's not quite as stiff as it would be. Utahraptor was discovered after Jurassic Park was released, just after Jurassic Park was released, of course. And it's named after John Ostrom, who is a paleontologist who was kind of responsible for the dinosaur revolution, because up till the 60s there'd been a sort of unenlightenment in paleontology where they'd gone to thinking of dinosaurs as sluggish, reptilian, doomed to extinction creatures that were inferior to mammals and what have you. And John Ostrom and his student Bob Bakker discovered the Deinonychus antirrhopus, which is what I believe that the raptor in Jurassic Park was based on. If you look at Crash McCreary's original artworks, somewhat resemble Bob Bakker's illustration of the Deinonychus, and indeed the size of the raptors in Jurassic Park was more in keeping with the size of Deinonychus as it was considered at that time. There's been a lot of revisionism downwards in terms of sizing of dinosaurs in my lifetime, but at the time the raptors depicted in Jurassic Park were kind of Deinonychus sized, so that's what I assumed that was based on. We didn't know about Utahraptor until after Jurassic Park, so it definitely wasn't based on that. And of course now we know that the raptor family were feathered animals. Even the large ones probably would have had some naked areas to allow for heat loss. Of course it's difficult to depict in a figure this size. If you look at the Articulation that's coming in, that has got some bald areas, which would kind of make sense for a large hot-blooded animal. All large ratites are found in very hot areas, and feathers going to be as much for a cooling function as they are for a heating function, as well as camouflage, display and all the other things. In fact, if you give me 2 seconds, sadly I do not have any of the Beasts of the Mesozoic 118 Velociraptor figures, Dromaeosaurid figures. However, I do have this little Deinonychus from Rebor, and it's quite a good stand-in to show you how large Velociraptor would have been compared to a human being. It's perhaps a little out of scale, but as you can see it's very much smaller than how the raptors were depicted in Jurassic Park. What we do have here with Dinosaur, you can see how large Utahraptor was compared to a human being. I mean, you really would not want to mess with this animal. Appear to hunt in packs. There are a series of specimens being prepared at the minute which were found predating on the corpse or, you know, the kill of a Dinosaur, and they are individuals who are of all different ages. So it looks like they lived together in a family group. Whether or not they hunted as a pack has always been up to debate. Dinosaurs apparently did have quite complex behaviours, judging by some of the ichnofossils. So I don't think anything's off the table. What I will say is, having handled this figure for a little while, I'm very impressed with the articulation that we've got in this figure. A couple of the joints are quite fragile. There's still not a great degree of flexibility in the hips or in the knees, for example, or in the rotation of the feet. You don't get much up or down movement with those, but it really doesn't limit the posing options too badly. This figure, what I will say as well, is with being smaller, lighter figure than a figure such as this huge T-Rex, it's a lot easier to keep it standing on its feet without a stand, and it's far less likely to distort and collapse under its own weight than that massive figure. And getting onto that as well is we have a different style of stand which has come in for these new beasts of the Mesozoic, and I can't wait until this style of stand comes in for the other figures as well, including our big T-Rex. So in the lower tray you get, in the packaging of this figure, you've got the base, you've got some spare feet, and you also have an alternative style of base. So first off, this base, this transparent base here, which you come with the, you know, sort of socket and ball joint which you would just fit into there. This is basically an identical base to what you would get with the smaller members of the beasts of the Mesozoic, such as this Fan's Choice Ornitholestes Langstoni, who's probably more in keeping size-wise with the raptors from Jurassic Park, yeah, pretty much. So obviously you get a space under this base for the feet, the spare toes for these little figures. Of course, this doesn't work out for this big Utahraptor because the spare feet for this thing are far too large to slot into that base. So you're going to have a separate box for your feet and other bits of accessories. I've got that already. That's fine, that's sorted, that's not a problem. I tend to keep most of the spare bits in the box anyway. So you've got spare feet with that fabulous great big sickle claw. Beautifully depicted. You can see the paintwork on these. I hope this is showing up on the camera. You've got, you know, it possibly looks all black, but it's not. There's a lot of sort of greys and things painted over this as well, and it's a lovely gloss paint job on this which really makes them pop. The other style of base that comes with this figure is this disc and pool. Of course there's a socket in the top of this pool as well, so you can fit some of the cradles and things for your raptor into the top of that. There's a couple of different styles of cradle, and there's also an extender in here. Again, it might be worth having a box or a tray, a labelled tray, to keep all your bits and pieces in, if you're not intending to keep them in the box. So this particular base is quite interesting because you can slot things in a number of different ways and in a number of different positions, and all it does is it slips into this slot and you twist it and it'll hold firm there. It won't slide up and down because there's a slight sort of ratchet on there. So this, being able to put this at all different levels really does sort of increase your posing options and for, you know, balancing your Utahraptor. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Can't wait till that style of base comes out for the Rexes. Really can't. So in terms of the engineering of this figure, I've been very impressed with that as well. You get a good degree of opening with the mouth. You do get movement on the tongue. It's a very tiny wee tongue in there. I can barely get my fingernail under it, but it does move. There you go. Just about to see that. I don't know if you can see the raptor looking straight down the camera here. You can see the detailing on the insides of the mouth and how that's painted in a high gloss paint to make it really pop and make it look quite realistic. Same with the eyes. Those eyes are really bright. The paintwork is absolutely fab on this thing. It's quite tough and durable as well. The beasts of the Mesozoic always are quite tough, fortunately. There's more points of articulation in the neck in this one than have been in previous figures I've had from beasts of the Mesozoic, which have only had you know, 2 points of articulation at the head and at the shoulder. There's an extra ball joint in the neck of the Utahraptor, which gives you far more movement and freedom and how to move that and pose it. It's absolutely brilliant, and of course that rotates as well on the end. Do some fantastic stop motion with these, I think, if you're inclined to. You get lovely motion on the arms, and of course they spread outwards as well. What I will say is you've got to be a bit careful with the disc joints in the elbow. First time I pulled this out of the box, this disc joint popped out and I thought, oh no, but it's gone straight back in. You just got to be a little more careful with these than you do with, you know, possibly a regular Dinosaur toy. Fantastic range of motion at the waist here as well, and there's a bit of rotation on there as well. So you can really get this thing in all sorts of different sort of poses and postures. And of course there's movement at the wrist there as well. Motion at the base of the tail. I always find with these that the tail is a little heavy for it to stay where you want it to. You will find it sort of droops up and down. That's not really a problem. It really isn't. Movement at the hips, I've already said, it's a little bit limited, but again, it's really not an issue. And I mean, just look how beautiful the sculpt work and the painting is on this absolutely phenomenal Utahraptor figure. This has got to be the best one that's been released yet. I'm absolutely over the moon with it. Yeah, I mean, they really are figures worth having, and I highly recommend using Everything Dinosaur as ever as well. I'm sorry there's been a bit of a delay in, you know, getting this video out. I know for a fact my friends at work have been wanting to see this figure and want to see this review for a little while, so I hope it's better late than never. And I hope you've enjoyed having a look at this lovely figure and learning a little bit about Velociraptor, Utahraptor and Deinonychus with me, and I hope to see you in the next video.